بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you for coming to our Arbaeen lecture series entitled The Deadly Sins, a Means of Enlightenment. Tonight's program is sponsored on behalf of the marhumeen displayed on the screens just outside the chapel and in the dining room. So can we please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for these and all other marhumeen? Al-Fatiha. Just a quick health and safety notice. In case of any emergency, the fire exits are located to my right, the main entrance outside the chapel, and the double doors by the dining room. Without further ado, I'd like to call upon Shaykh Arif to deliver tonight's lecture. So can I request you all to recite a salawat and move forward as well, please?
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وأصحابه المنتجبين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى قيام يوم الدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We stated that the human being is a product of the fusion of the spirit and the body. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا نَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. Now in terms of us, the humans, the progeny of Adam, this process occurs within the womb of the mothers. At the age of 4 months, an angel, according to a report, blows the spirit within the growing fetus. And at that stage, the human being becomes a complete human being. It is at that point then that there is this dormant awakening of the human being without them realizing, a state of sleep within the growing fetus. When we come out into the world and we begin to open ourselves to ourselves, we begin to realize that I am, and of course it's a very sophisticated proposition, I am, which we realize much after, but that is the fusion or the blowing of the spirit within the fetus that causes the emergence of the human soul within the rest of us, as opposed to Adam, in whom the spirit was blown after his full body was constructed. Now, think of it in this way, that the matter has all these tendencies to preserve itself. Within the animal kingdom, they have to have anger within them in order to defend themselves. They have to have this appetite to procreate in order to ensure the survival of their species. They have to have the want to eat in order to live the life that they're going to live. So these are all natural facets there within the human being. And the human soul is so naive. It's so naive. We see the child growing. The child has not acquired the sophistication of what the child is. The very first thing the child is faced with are these natural inclinations. The inclination of eating to survive. As they become adolescent, they have these hormones in their bodies that require them to procreate. They have this anger to ward off danger from them. These are all natural workings of the human body in terms of it being an animal. For it needs all of these things to survive. It's hardwired within the child. Now, if we look at the cardinal vices or the sins as enumerated within Christianity, we will see, I will come to the main one afterwards, which is pride. Put pride aside. Yes? We're coming to it in a little while. But they are what? Gluttony, overconsumption, lust, overindulgence within sort of sexual activities, rage and anger. These three, if you look at them, they are directly related to our human animal constitution. We can't do anything about it. When do they become a problem? That is what we want to discuss in a little while. Apart from that, let's analyze others as well as we go into it. Pride, greed, envy, and sloth. Let's analyze these. If you look at the human soul is also being inclined towards the spirit. We said there is this struggle within the human soul. Should it be inclined towards the spirit that calls it towards godliness and the intellect and the gems of the intellect that the intellect has, full completion? Or should it be inclined towards matter and the properties of matter, which are these? Which are procreation, defense of the self, assurance of life. When the soul turns towards God, it sees God in the most perfect state. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes pride in His own existence. Al-Kibriya Ridai, as the hadith says, pride is my cloak, my garment. It is haram on other than me. The thing is that it suits and befits Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pride befits Allah because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no comparison. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is no comparison with God. He is perfect in His own state. He is the most splendid, the most beautiful. And hence it is right for Him to take pride because Allah cannot grow any further. But in less than Allah, pride becomes problematic because it yields a state of stagnation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need to grow. I need to grow. But if pride is taken on, I will become pleased with the way I am. I don't need anything else. And then that results in utmost stagnation and wasting of a great opportunity of life. So pride also is something that is inbuilt within us when we observe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am. But pride within us has an ugly face. Pride in God has a beautiful aspect. But pride in less than God is ugly. How? Only the being that is most complete can take pride in himself. So that pride is befitting. A being less than complete, if it takes pride in itself, it stops growing. And that's why the opposite of pride is humility. And as I said, we're going to come back to this in a little while. So that is a misplaced understanding of the soul. And it places it into its own self that I am indeed complete, and vanity results. And if it goes off guard and if it's not checked, it results in arrogance, in defiance, in I am better than you. And we are coming to it. Greed. It's a notion of deficiency. And of course, we are deficient. But it is our understanding that is at fault here as to how to analyze greed. And envy. I am lacking that somebody else has. So if we look at these cardinal vices, we can see that they are all very, very natural. There is nothing wrong with them in and of themselves. To want to procreate is good. We are hardwired. To want to defend is good. We are supposed to defend ourselves. And rage or anger is supposed to have that positive sort of aspect. To eat and to survive is again a necessity of life. To understand that God is utmost complete is good. Pride in that sense. To see that we are deficient is again nothing wrong with it. To see that others have something that I am lacking is a natural understanding of the self. How have they become problematic? All the 7 vices, if we look at them, they are all very much within the framework of being human. The fusion of spirit with matter that causes this beautiful awakening of I am. This is a perfectly fine state. And all of these vices, when analyzed existentially, are perfectly fine and normal. Where do they become a problem? Where is the sin? Where is the transgression? Where is the damnation? Where is the condemnation? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. The soul and the one who has balanced it and inspired it with its good and its evil. Look at what he says after that. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Successful is the one who purifies it. At loss is the one who tarnishes it. Think about this statement. Purifies it from what? If we did not have anything tarnishing it, there would be no notion of purifying it. So to understand that the state of being tarnished is actually the potential for growth. Can you see that? The removal of fear leads to courageousness. The removal of greed results in charity. The removal of pride results in humility. We will see that these things that we call the cardinal sins are in fact the means for the opposite, for the soul to become godly. The one who purifies it from what? From the way the soul has inclined naturally. The soul has naturally inclined towards the animal self that needs to protect itself. What goes wrong? is when the imagination kicks in. It's amazing the way we are. It's quite amazing. I gave this example previously. An animal feels hungry, it'll hunt. It'll eat. Its belly is full, it will not think about food. Isn't that so? I went to South Africa. The lions were fed. Obviously, being a Maulana, I wanted a photo shot. So I went and stroked this great lion. They said, see, this guy is a saint. Lions don't do anything. Little do they know that that lion could not be bothered. I mean, apart from the fact that Maulana is not a good meal in any case. Salawat. Move towards the middle, please, so you can see the Maulana properly. The lions know their meals well. That lion, once it's satiated, will not hunt again. A lion confronted with an enemy will show aggression. Once the enemy and the threat is gone, there will be no more aggression in the animal. The animal, once there is a hormonal imbalance within their system, will think of copulation and copulating and mating. Once the hormonal balance is addressed, they will not think of it anymore. Why is it then that the human eats and then eats more and then eats more and then gathers and hoards more? Why is it that the human defends himself, then creates weapons for future anticipation of further wars? Why is it that did I say woman or man? Did I say woman? Salawat. Why is it that a man, what was he supposed to do now? In any case, why is a human being so excessive? We have this thing known as imagination. We eat. We love food because of the taste buds as well. Then we imagine creating more tastier foods. Then we imagine that tomorrow I'll become hungry again. And then the day after, and then the day after, and then the day after. And therefore we want to amass and hoard. Being hungry and eating is a natural inclination which is hardwired within us to ensure our survival. When imagination comes into it, it goes haywire, out of control. Defending, we are hardwired to defend ourselves. To be angry is good for the sake of defense and to bring about justice. But he confronted me today. Not only will I finish him right now in a moment of rage, but then there are complexities in the mind. Let me just tarnish him, finish him off, kill him off, and in the future no other nation can transgress against me. Let me create bombs and preemptive strikes. It is the imagination that leads us to misinterpret what is going on very naturally within us. The things that we consider as vice at the outset are not vice at all. They become vice only when the imagination kicks in and we lose control over them. Now, what is evil in itself? We will always say evil is the absence of good. But we also find that evil is something within its own self. It's that attitude. It's that attitude of not wanting good. You see, it's not only me wanting to eat and hoard. It will be me wanting to eat and hoard at the expense of depriving others. That then results in lack of care. That then is an expression of evil. Why? Because the intellect desires us to grow and become godlike. So existentially, the evil traits are deprivation of growth. And our privations, not only are there privations, lack of, but there is an active state of regression. And that is what we call evil. So an angry person who can actually kill and not rectify themselves because their imagination works on them. But I will say, even that is not the real sin. Even that is not the real evil. We need to work into this. Real evil is something very different and beyond it all. And we want to get there slowly today. So now we have seen that all the 7 vices that we count within the Christian enumeration, why do we call them cardinal vice? Because they're not reducible. If it's cardinal, it means it cannot be reduced. Yes? Let's look at them again and their opposites. So when we said pride, I'm going to talk about it more thoroughly. Pride, humility. Lust becomes uncontrollable, leads to promiscuity. Its opposite is chastity. You'll see this is the quality of the intellect. Gluttony, when there's excessive consumption. As opposed to that is temperance, to restrain, to balance, to be moderate. Then we have anger. Its opposite is patience. We have sloth, laziness and indifference. Its opposite is diligence. Then we have envy. And we have greed. Greed's opposite is charity. And envy's opposite is to become pleased for the other. These 7 are problems within themselves, but they are a result of something that needs to be understood. The time they become evil is only when there is an attitude of justifying them. And that is known as pride, the mother of all evils. And the way to rectify them is humility, which is the mother of all good. Why is this? Humility is a state of acceptance of wrong, of being able to assess things as they are. Humility, and we will talk about this at length afterwards, humility is to prepare the ground for it to become fertile and yield. Pride is a state of us becoming stifled when we justify ourselves and we become arrogant. Now look at these 2 examples. Iblis disobeys Allah. Adam disobeys Allah. In terms of disobedience, both have disobeyed Allah. In terms of sin, both have suffered. Yes? Adam disobeyed. It was a sin. If it wasn't a sin, Adam would not have suffered. Existentially, Adam falls. Ahbatu. Descent. The lofty stature that Adam had was lost by Adam. Yes? Both of them suffer. But what is the real problem? The real problem is what comes in after the act of disobedience. The state of acceptance of the wrong and the state of justification of the wrong. You see, Iblis immediately points a finger of blame at God. You are the one who deceived me. I am quite justified in what I have done. Instead of taking proper ownership of the wrong, and that here is something that needs to be addressed, Iblis justifies it. That is the state of pride. It leads Iblis to arrogance. I am better than he is. And to a state of defiance. Even if I'm going to go to hell, I will take them all to hell with me. But I will not humble myself at this point. Whereas Adam, on the other hand, humbles himself. He says, "Oh Lord, I have done wrong." Now the other analysis that is most befitting for us. Oh, by the way, so the real evil and the real sin is what? That state of pride accompanying that tendency. That is the real sin. So the tendency in itself is problematic when it's unchecked, but justification through pride is the real problem. Now, the other thing that we need to understand is the way Adam viewed his mistake or his sin. Allah says, Asa Adam Rabbahu. Adam was disobedient to his God. That's what the Quran says. So Adam, he looks at his act. He humbles himself And he actually thanks Allah by saying to Allah that, "O Lord, you placed that thing there for it to reveal to me my inner inadequacy." So he uses that in such a positive way through humility that that mistake of Adam and disobedience of Adam causes him to become a messenger of God and the prophet of God. And you see this in the Quran, that when great men make mistakes, immediately they humble themselves. And after humbling themselves, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises them a status. So when we look at these cardinal vices and sins, we will see actually they are things that can be remedied. There is nothing like absolute evil. You can have something that is very, very evil, like the pride of Iblis and the pride that goes on in all of us. But there is no such thing as absolute evil. It cannot be. God has created. Existence is good. Existence wants to flow and wants to grow. It always wants goodness. Inevitably, people who burn in hell exit hell and come towards the folds of paradise. With this understanding, we will know that no matter how a person may feel about themselves in terms of their state as being sinful, all of them have the greatest potential of growth. So now we revisit that verse that we started off with. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran places the human soul as the point of salvation and damnation. There is no damnation beyond the damnation of the soul. There is no salvation beyond the salvation of the soul. We've stated this on many occasions, that if you want to understand this accurately, you can see that in a student. The salvation of the student is not in receiving money from a good job. That is an outcome of salvation. That is the outcome of success. Success is not receiving the pay. Success is something else. Success is the ability to actualize that knowledge through which such a job has procured, which pays so handsomely. So success for a student is to actualize that knowledge within the university. Failure for a student is not this, that they end up with a bad job. That is mere expression of a different type of a failure, which is the inner failure. When the student fails to actualize the knowledge that is being given to the student, and as a result ends up accumulating debts and not finding a good job, the real failure is within. Similarly, the real success and real failure is the human soul. The paradise that is received outside is a mere expression of the inner success. And the hell that is received outside is a mere expression of the inner damnation and inner failure. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts this soul as the whole point of salvation and damnation. So Allah says, he who purifies it is successful. What does that mean? What that means is that these natural tendencies that we already have, and as children we get accustomed to them, eating, drinking, anger, whatever. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is that when the imagination overpowers the soul and makes that eating, drinking, anger an end in itself, it is here that the human being is supposed to awaken and through humility rid itself of this uncontrolled state. And the more it is able to control itself of its tendencies, the more refined the soul becomes in the opposite direction. So the pull of the intellect only comes through the opportunity of ignorance. But that is only possible when we are able to understand what is going on within us. When we can actually understand acutely what is going on within us. Today, all we want to say is that we need to address the two facets of pride and humility. Pride, when accompanied with these tendencies is the surest damnation. When there is humility of acceptance, it can provide these very vices to be the greatest means for the actualization of the soul and salvation. Now, for anybody or all of us who encounter these stages, we need to be very sympathetic with ourselves. You see, the religious people, they make us feel bad about ourselves, don't they? Yeah, and you're looking at me and thinking, well, he is a religious person. The religious people say, look, we are so bad people. We are this, we are that, we are horrible, and all of those things, right? We lose confidence within ourselves. It's a student or a young child saying to himself, I'm so bad, I'm good for nothing. The parent wants to kick that child. Of course, kicking is not allowed, right? It's a manner of speaking. We used to get kicked back in the day, by the way. And when I say to the child, what's wrong with you? Stand up and do something for a change. How can you be so negative about yourself? Not only are you useless, but you're causing me grief. This is what Allah says to the human beings. But I'm telling you, I'm here. I'm going to forgive you. Make an attempt, I'm here for you. It's like a student saying to the teacher, I failed once, I'm going to fail again. There's no point in trying. The failure of the student results in the failure of the teacher. Can you see that? This religious notion of piety is a full failure. That you are good for nothing, you're not good for this, you're not good for that, you're not good for that. Oh Allah, I'm a waste of time. Why are you giving me this life to waste even more? Think about it. At that point, everybody should wish for that. Look, oh Allah, I'm a waste of time, I'm a bad person. The more I live, the worse it will get. Just take me now and spare me the eternal damnation. At least the fire will touch me for a few years. If you let me live for 100 years, the fire will be all consuming and will be everlasting. Think about this. This is the attitude that is drilled within our heads from religion, which is totally inconsistent with the way our existence is. Which is totally inconsistent with the way the Prophet saw his community. The Prophet said, I dislike your evil, I am in love with you. The physician says, loving you wants me to rid your body of the cancer because I want you to live. I want to take that thing out of you. Isn't that the attitude that God has vested us with? That's the way it's supposed to be. Not for people to give up and to think that they are useless and waste of time. They should see this as a great opportunity. Now the reason why we fail is because we don't have acute and proper understanding of the situation. You see, I feel I am evil. Instead of thinking that I have inclination towards eating a lot of food. There's a big difference. I feel I'm an angry monster. Instead of thinking that I have this uncontrolled inclination towards anger, but that's not me. If we can just make that disconnect between ourselves and what is happening within us, then we will have a better perspective. So instead of being parents to our children, if we can become parents to ourselves as well, we will understand things far better. Some people are just very miserable. Some people are just very angry and they just cannot come out of it. Why? Because they're fooling themselves into thinking, I am anger, I am misery. You are not anger, you're not misery, it's your hormones that have gone crazy inside you. It's your imagination that you can't control, but it's not you. If you were all of those things, then why would God persevere with you? Why would He send prophets? Why would He say, do tawbah? Why would He put rectification there? Why would He say, if you don't get forgiven in this world, I'll forgive you in the next one, in your grave and in your barzakh, but I will punish you to forgive you? Why would He say that? So the first thing we need to understand is this, that there is a distance between me and myself that I consider as me. Now, when a person, according to another sort of psychoanalysis, a person who is suffering from pride, they say actually if you look at the person who is boastful, and analyze it carefully. This is not the pride that Shaitan displayed, but although even Shaitan belongs in this category, and you feel sorry for him at times. Iblis, La'natullah alayhi, I better say that as well. A person who is boastful and, they are trying to assert their own existence. They need to prove that I am worthy. Look at me. A person, they say, who overindulges in eating feels emotional deprivation from within. Because emotionally they're not satisfied. They feel they eat and they eat and they eat to satisfy that thing. In fact, analyze this way, the addictions that we have are actually yearnings for God that are misplaced. People want that inner completion. We are in a state of lack, but we're not analyzing that lack. The soul wants that godly self, but it is yearning for that godly self within matter. That is how it's misplacing itself. A person who is lustful, they are deprived of proper connection and bonding and love. Think of it in that way. A person who is greedy is suffering because they feel deprived from within. Forget about forgiving ourselves. We can't forgive anybody, can we? He is such a greedy person. Look at him. May God curse him and raise him in hell. The poor guy is already in hell. The greedy person is in hell despite being in this world. They are just wanting more and more. Their name goes, their prestige goes, nobody likes them, everybody hates them, but nobody realizes that the poor guy has a psychological condition. He doesn't understand the feeling of being deprived from within. Envy. Why should he have what I don't have? It's because they're feeling very, very incomplete from within themselves. If it is analyzed accurately, the very thing that we say are the attributes of the demon are actually means towards reaching Gabriel and beyond, if we can analyze them properly. So first and foremost, we need to detach ourselves from ourselves. We need to start forgiving ourselves and saying that, you know what, you've been caught up in a crazy body. Your body is angry, you're not angry. Your body craves food, you're not somebody who's greedy. Your body is lustful, you're somebody who needs emotional satiation. You need a proper emotional connection. But that requires us to be acutely aware of what is going on within us. And it needs us to be very, very humble. Once we can do that with ourselves, then we can do that with the world beyond ourselves. The hadith says that Imam Ali Salamullah alayhi came from a battle. And the Blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam glanced upon his beautiful face. And he said, "O Ali, if I were to sing your praise, I fear these people will take the dust and apply it into their dust from your feet and apply it into their eyes in reverence of you." But he said, "O Ali, all the enemies of God that you have killed, had one of them been brought to the way of Allah, that would have been more pleasing to Allah than all the good deeds that are committed on the face of this earth." Imagine. And the most beautiful souls that have come upon the face of this earth have been souls who have remedied souls. People of God are people who see beauty in others and opportunities. Hussein Salamullah alayhi was seen crying on the day of Ashura. They said, "Why do you weep so?" He said, "At the fate of those who advanced to put me to death." but they are the enemies of God. But they will incur damnation due to killing me. And my heart is saddened that because of me they will go to hell. Imagine the soul of Hussein. The killer of Hamza comes to the Prophet at the conquest of Mecca. Do you have forgiveness in your heart for me? He said, indeed. He said, just don't come in front of me, because it reminds me of my uncle Hamza. These people are a different breed of people altogether. But first, we need to understand that we are not ugly monsters. We are fine human beings, caught up in bodies that have monstrous hormones and chemical exchanges inside them. And we need to regulate them and grow through them. Become humble, and we will inshallah talk about it much more in the couple of days that are to come. But I finish here with that beautiful dua of Mawla Ali, in which he says, Oh Allah, this pride is sufficient for me, that you are my God. I take utmost pride in that. And this glory is sufficient for me, that I be your servant. To then gesture that I am always growing towards you. And the only reason these people grew so much was because unashamedly they went in front of Allah and they admitted their sins. They said, Oh Allah, I am sinful, but I have no one but you. This acknowledgement, this humility is inevitably what causes this beautiful growth from within our souls. Look at the evolution of Zainab Salamullah alayha on the plains of Karbala. She is unable to entertain the thought that her Hussein can be taken away. She comes to Imam Hussein. She says, Oh Hussein, they arrive in their thousands. Can you not call upon anyone, O Hussein? But in this wilderness, O Zainab, who may I call upon? Call upon Habib, your childhood friend, and the clan of Bani Asad. Let them come and help you. I will say, O Zainab, your brother shall not be saved. It is the night of Ashura. Imam Hussein sees a dream, awakens with the words of istirja, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. What did you see, O my brother? I saw a pack of dogs attacking me, and one most fierce was devouring me. What does it mean? Your brother shall be no longer after daybreak. In grief she faints. She is unable to withstand. The day of Ashura comes. On and Muhammad, why do you spare your lives? Is it more dear that you live to yourselves than my brother Hussein? Go and give yourselves for Hussein. She runs to the body of Akbar, lest my brother sees him and loses his soul. She says, Oh brother, come to me time and again from the battlefield, so I know that you are still alive. The Maqtal records that time and again Hussein would come to the tent and cry out, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, so that Zainab would know that Hussein is still alive. He does not come. She runs to the hill. She cries out, Isn't there anyone who will save Abu Abdullah? This is Zainab, in the love of her brother, weakened and unable to accept. On the 11th, Her hands are tied like a captive. She is upon the back of a naked camel, being taken from whence the bodies lay. Kulthum looks at the body of Hussein from afar. Inadvertently, she turns her head towards Medina, wa Jaddah. The angels salute you. Is this not your grandson, O Muhammad? Is this the one is this not the one who rode upon your shoulders? Is he not the one you adorned with your endless kisses, O grandfather? Come and see how he lies upon the plains, casted like a body, without a head, and a chest trampled upon, and hands cut from the body. As they arrive at the body, Zainab does not wait for anybody to assist her. She falls upon the body of Hussein, and the first thing she does is she composes herself, looks towards the skies, and says, "Oh Allah, accept this offering from us." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Can we recite Amma Yujib 5 times for the Shafa of all those who are unwell, especially some of our daughters, our sisters, our mothers, and all those who are unwell. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, for Hussein and Zainab, give them full recovery. Ameen, Ya Rabbal Alameen. And they never ever become ill again with those illnesses. Ameen, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ يَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ يَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. Fatiha. Matam Hussein.
الفاتحة. السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين وسيد الوسيين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريته، والسلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهر الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا الله من أنصارك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Can I please have everyone seated again? Thank you. Just a couple of announcements. We will be having a Q&A session with Shaykh Arif this Sunday after the lecture. So if anyone has questions arising from any of the 5 lectures, you can send them via our website, www.almahdi.edu/Arbaeen-2019, or you can send them on Facebook. To improve the quality of our lectures, we have feedback forms available at the entrance, so it would be great if you could all fill them out as critically as possible. Due to popular demand, we also have a card machine in the entrance, so for anyone who would like to donate towards the lecture series. Tomorrow night's program will start at 8 p.m. with Quran, followed by lecture, matam, and ending with niyaz. I would like to now call Dr. Noshad Suleiman, co-founder of Clifton Road Food Bank, to take a few moments to present the work that he has been doing.
Thank you, Sayyida. Respected Shaykh, friends, I noted that Sayyida said the work I have been doing. That's not true. The work we have been doing, all of us. Can you hear me at the back? I'll bring it clear, okay. I just wanted to share with you a few things that are very close and which we are very passionate about. So if you hear my voice breaking up, that's me. Sorry, forgive me for that. The first thing I'd like to say is that those of us who used to work with in the organization, who is Hussein, 3.5, 4 years ago, we decided to put together something which was different. And that difference was that we wanted to create a food bank for people of all races, all religions, all cultures, all social status, based essentially on the needs of people and our ability and our practice to help us practice how to give. In other words, it's nice to be Father Christmas at least once a week. And I think that that's what we tried to do and created the Clifton Road Food Bank 2.5 years ago on Prospect Place. Some of you might have seen it, and some of you might have admired it, and some of you not so much, but here we are. We have now moved to 220 Gooch Street, though we still hold on to that name of Clifton Road Food Bank for administrative purposes. Now, what is it that we wanted to do? While we were working at the food drives in the city center, we realized that the needs of people was paramount, and we who had food on our table were not using what Shaykh was saying today, was exercising ourselves on how to become givers, and we tried to do that. I think using the word giver is a word full of pride, and I'll withdraw that. We became the postman, or the postage stamp, basically, to see if we could pass on things to other people. And to be able to do that, ultimately, I have to thank the Creator with, without any hesitation, but also the people and His creation who helped us put this thing together. So your role in this was paramount in all this. We realized that about 20% of the population in the country were under what is defined as a stage of poverty. Now, poverty here in this context is defined as 60% of the average of an annual income. Okay, so work out the maths, but I'll let you know later on. But in this context, we also found out through statistics that 8 million adults, 4 million children, and 500,000 of pensioners were going through difficult times. And in our modest effort, we tried to put something together in Birmingham. Over the 2.5 years we've been working, on an average, we have been giving about 3,500 packets to people every week. My colleagues will correct me if I'm wrong, but that's roughly the numbers. And we were able to give a package to a person which would be proportional, or more packages, which was proportional to the size of their family. In fact, the larger the family, the more provisions they got. And we also were able to collect the information from our users, our guests, our respected guests to be precise, that this was lasting them about 3.5 to 4 days in a week. We would have liked to do more, but we have been trying to get there, and maybe inshallah one day we will. We try to focus upon different areas of work, and I won't exhaust you with that, but just to mention that we worked very closely with the refugee center in Birmingham. We worked with different schools. Now, schools are important. Schools became givers, and schools became takers, and I'll explain that shortly. But we tried to excite people that giving was so very important. And through our modest effort, we were trying to set examples for others to see whether they would become part of us, part of what we were doing, part of our mission. And I'm delighted to say that there are people in this room, and I can see them quite clearly, became part of this movement. without which we would have not been where we are. I even can confirm that the spouses of those people who come there were also part of this help. They worked in the background, okay? And people know who they are. But through all this process, I'm delighted to say that children and grandchildren, when I compare to myself, became part of this movement. So children as young as 5 years old used to come to the food bank to see what giving was all about. But there was one other clause. This was giving with dignity, without hurting the other person. Giving in such a way that it was not what we had that we were giving. As I said, we were just the postman. We were just passing on things. But hopefully those children who are watching us may have learned a thing. And we started getting people from, during holiday season particularly, children coming to help us. The Princess Trust also sent groups of people to be trained in community life through us. And we are now recognized as a center for doing that. I just want to give you one little example of schools. As I said to you, schools are givers and schools are takers. And schools like Edgbaston Girls High School, St. Martin's in Solihull, and I'm allowed to mention them because they started collecting food items for us so that we could donate to people. But I'll tell you one important thing that we found out, for which it hurts me to say that, and I'm sure that you will sympathize with those schools which have children who cannot afford things that you and I can eat. And during this process, and I can't mention the name of the school, but we have identified from one particular school, there are at least 7 families that struggle during half-term time, during holidays, because their children don't have the right things to eat or they don't have anything to eat. Now, people might have seen this on the television some time ago in Lancashire. One school child was going through rubbish bins in the holidays. We can't tolerate that. It shouldn't happen. And I think that we have tried to do this in such a way that those children, in fact, next week, my colleagues who are in this room as well, will be putting packages for these 7 children so that they will be able to have sufficient to eat. So that's just an example of where our responsibilities might be. And trying to help these people became an important task for us. And we took it quite passionately. Every Wednesday we are open between 10 and 12, and we try to fulfill the tasks. But our main idea is to get people to receive things as it might be apparent to you. People might donate cash, people might donate food items, and tomorrow you'll find a little box outside where you can come and put any items that you believe are worthy of giving other people. People might donate money to us, and that's fine. But I'll tell you a little secret, that's not my ulterior motive. My ulterior motive, and this is a big secret, but please tell it to everybody. We want to get people to start thinking that giving to others is fun. Giving to others is what we should be doing, we could be doing. And please if we can convince, as Shaykh said, if we can convince 1 or 2 people of you, or from this audience, to become or join us in doing what we do. You know, whether you want to come once a week, that's fine, we'll welcome you. Once a month, even once in a lifetime. Even if you come and join us, get your hands dirty. See what feeding the people feels like. See the smiles on their face. But I bet you any money that when you're driving home from that particular place, there'll be a sense of pleasure which money cannot buy. I will stop here, but with just a little message because I've got a signal come from there. A few of us are here today. If I can mention names, Musarat Banji, Zinat, Moti, Sara Ramji, we are here, and we are going to be here for the rest of the evening. Please come and ask us questions. Challenge us. If we are doing something wrong, tell us. Come and see us and tell us what's wrong. But if it's right, don't forget to pat those people who are the volunteers who do this work. I do the easy bit, I do the talking one. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.